What is going on, YouTube people? Today, we are back for another edition of the weekly sports card market update, and we are jam-packed today. Tons of new stuff to get to. Things I have not had a chance to cover this week, in addition to a bunch of charts and graphs. We are in the heart of the early days of the NBA Finals. Game 2 later this evening. We are what are we at? 45 days away from the National by the time you all are seeing this. I'm recording this early Saturday afternoon, fresh off my local show today. And that means 45 days from the National also means we're about 60 days away from Fanatics Fest in New York for anyone attending that. Some interesting debates lately on, if you could only choose one, which would you rather do? I think that's a hard discussion to have until we've kind of seen what this first Fanatics event is like. So we'll have a better feel for that, I think, later this summer. A lot of talk in my local show today about the National. Local show was, once again, started kind of slow, picked up. A little tricky because this one's at the Hartville Flea Market, and it was a perfect day today. Absolutely gorgeous weather. So it was hard to tell, was it flea market traffic or was it card show traffic? But there was a lot of people walking around by the time I left. I went very early to get in and out before the flea market got super busy. I made one pickup. I picked up a Jason Dominguez PSA 9 Gold out of 2024 from Top Series 1. I have made a ton of purchases over the last month. There is a massive mail day video coming probably tomorrow or Tuesday, most likely. I also have Heroes Con later this week. If you're attending Heroes Con, track me down. I will be there Friday and Saturday. Before we dive too deep, shout out to our channel partner, ComSeed.com. Just a reminder, their 25% off submission event, you got about another week on that. It runs until the 17th, and you need to get it in the mail. I believe it has to be in their hands by the 17th. So you got a couple days if you want to get some stuff out to them. I am hoping I'm going to try to get one last order out to them. I ripped those Bowman Megas this week. I also have a couple fat packs of Optic Cellos coming from Target. About 3. They were up on Target.com. I'm going to open those. And then Series 2 comes out next week. We'll talk about that now real quick, actually. I will be ripping a couple jumbo boxes of Top Series 2 and probably anything that I open decent out of that, if it's not super high end, will also be going off to ComC to take advantage of that 30% off deal. That is a very, very, 25% off. That is a very, very good deal to take advantage of for ComC, and that does stack with fresh pulls, so you could double dip on that, which is what I hope to do. Series 2 comes out later this week. The checklist is a little not the greatest. I don't know that I recommend going crazy on this product. It is up. This will still be running by the time you all see this video. If I remember, I will link to it down below. Jumbos are up for product drop on Fanatics if you have gift cards or anything laying around and you want to snag a couple. Like I said, I'll be opening 2 later this week. The biggest, besides the SPs, there are some rookie SPs and image variations and all that stuff. The Churio, Langford, and Caminero are going to be SPs. So they will have rookies in this, but they will be SPs. So that'll probably be the big chase for like the Langford. I would imagine will probably be the best thing to get out of this. We'll see how it comes out. Well, I don't have high hopes for ripping these 2 boxes, but you never know. You never know. All right, first up, I have not had a chance to talk about this yet as it kind of developed late in the week and I had other stuff on the docket. New PSA slabs seem to have a little bit of an issue. There was a bunch of posts on Sports Cards Nonsense about this. I saw Junk Wax did a video on this yesterday. And what we are talking about here, I'll go ahead and flip through these real quick. This one, you can't see it as well, but there's a faint little line right there. You'll see it much more clearly on ones like this. A lot of the new PSA slabs have these little marks on it. And apparently they've been referred to as a couple different things. It seems to be flow lines is what everyone's coming down to. It has something to do with the injection molding process. It's not an actual crack in the slab or anything like that. It seems like some cards these are more visible on than less visible on. I know PSA is aware about this. I have a feeling maybe we hear something from them on this. I don't know. But I hope they come out and say something, because for as much as people are paying to grade with you and you have these brand new slabs that you're touting as the most fantastic things ever, I still haven't had one in hand yet. This seems kind of unacceptable, in my opinion. This big, huge, once again, it's not a crack, but that's what it looks like. And one, it's taking away from the card itself. Like, it makes it look like the card actually has a big scratch on it. And if you sold this card on eBay, the funny part is that PSA does the authentication on it. You know, you'd almost have to disclose this, that this is on there, that, hey, there's like a small little flow line crack. It's not a crack, but it looks like a crack mark, whatever, on this slab to get it through eBay AG. Like, is PSA going to reject this if it goes through eBay AG and you didn't disclose that it's on there? I don't know. It just seems like a problem. I don't know if this was just a bad batch, these first ones out the door, if they can improve upon this or something. But they have got to get this locked down. You cannot spend what you guys are charging for grading and then have stuff like this going on. Like, if this is the trade-off for the new slab, then I'm not really sure what we're doing here. Like I said, hopefully it was just a bad batch of product or something and they can get this sorted out so it's not as noticeable or very faint. Like I said, I have seen some where if you know what you're looking for, you could see it, but it is so faint, it doesn't stand out like these ones do, because some of them apparently don't go directly over the card. That's what makes it even worse. If this just went straight up into the ether here, you probably would hardly even see it. But when it crosses over the card like this, whole different bag of cats. So, in other PSA news, their new blue label is upon us. This is for autograph authentication only. This is to help curb some of that nonsense with people making up like fake Frank Thomas rookies and just basically fake cards, facsimile cards, getting them autographed, getting the auto only graded, and it just says trading card at the top. And then, you know, you'd have auction houses and sellers kind of marketing the card like it's an actual rookie card when it wasn't. And it just caused confusion on the secondary market. I would see this all the time when I would talk to people. So I think the thought is, and they used to have a blue label, this is not necessarily new, they're going back to it, is that the blue label would be a red flag, if you will, for, wait a second, this doesn't look like a regular PSA label. Why is this one different, for someone to kind of like ask some questions about it before just blindly trusting the label. I personally like this change. This isn't really something I typically chase anyway. But I do think that this will kind of make life a little bit easier. But this is now in effect. In more PSA news, their selling account is now live. This is up and running on eBay. You could go ahead and follow this if you want to see the stuff that they are posting. Right now, the way I understand it is that they are very much still in a beta phase for the listing directly to eBay once your auctions resolve, or once your grading resolves to sending it straight to eBay. I think it's a handful of Collector Club members only at this point in time to kind of work through some of the early kinks. And then I expect this to move forward pretty quickly, and that this thing gets ramped up and expanded to everyone. One thing I'm extremely disappointed in, and, you know, maybe I'll do a standalone on this at some point in time, they're charging shipping to go, if you send stuff off to eBay and send stuff off to the PSA vault, which, I don't know, that's not a feel good. Like, if you need to cover costs on shipping, hide the charge somewhere else to make it at least feel like I'm not paying for shipping. That just seems kind of nonsensical. I am sending the card to you to grade it. And I get it, you know, it's going to California or New Jersey, and then it's going to Delaware to where their vault's at. But why am I getting charged shipping when I'm sending it to PSA to grade, transferring it to the PSA vault, your own vault, to then sell on eBay or whatever you're going to do with it? I feel like there shouldn't be a shipping charge there, or worst case, make it a drastically discounted shipping charge. This is one of those feel bad things. This is the reason why people like to complain about PSA, is stuff like this. Like, It just doesn't make sense to me. I get it. You're probably spending something, but you know, it's not like they're taking my little 5 cards that I got graded by PSA and shipping them by themselves to the vault. They are bundling all this stuff up in mass probably and shipping huge orders out at a time with my order mixed in with a bunch of other people's stuff. And you're probably getting a massive discount on shipping. I have to imagine the deal that you have with FedEx or whoever it is that you're using, I believe it's FedEx for most stuff, is quite good. So I don't know. This one feels, I don't like this one, PSA. Do better. Do better. Fix the shipping. If I'm going to take a limb out and take advantage of these things that you're offering, at least give a little bit on that. Or like I said, hide it somewhere else. Charge an extra 0.2% on a fee somewhere to at least make it feel like I'm not paying for the shipping. Jeez Louise, guys. Next one up. Target cracking down on pack searchers. Saw a few people do videos on this. I know Dan did one, and a lot of other people have kind of discussed this. This came out earlier this week, where if they catch people weighing packs or kind of searching or stuff like that, they reserve the right not to sell to you. And then also talk about basically resellers. So, you know, if you walk in and clear the shelf, are they going to tell you no? Maybe. I mean, I know back in the, the peak pandemic days, they put limits in place on stuff. Doesn't say anything about a limit per se. Oh, I just wonder if it's one of those gut feel things where if they see you coming in there every day and you're wiping the shelf out every week, maybe they would put a stop to it or at least tell you to put some of the product back. I don't know. But the pack searching and pack weighing is absolutely ridiculous. You see these videos in Facebook groups and stuff where someone walks up to the card section and someone is literally there with a digital scale weighing packs or feeling up all the cello packs to see which one is slightly thicker than another one. Like, really, what are we doing, guys and girls? Come on. So good on Target for this one, I guess, but we'll just go down the street to Walmart. Little non-sports action. Crazy sale on a Marvel Universe PSA 10 Wolverine hologram for $8,700. Just thought I'd kind of throw this one in here real quick. These are highly desirable in PSA 10s, the Wolverine specifically. I mean, they all are. It's only a 5-card set. People like to chase the PSA 10 sets of these. There's only a few known completed sets out there. I think the Wolverine is a pop 7 by itself. So at most, there are 7 completed sets out there, and I don't even think there's that many. I think last I knew of, there was maybe 4, maybe 5 now. I know where at least a handful of them live. Collector-wise, I know where a couple of them are. Very, very tough set to put together. I know some of the lower end characters go for less. I think a Spider-Man even is like $7,000. I think some of them you can get for $3,000 or $4,000, but the Wolverine and Spider-Man are the two most highly desirable ones. Card's slightly off-centered, so it must have been clean all else. Definitely some PSA centering on that one. These are ridiculously tough to grade. They come out of the packs like garbage. They are usually way off-centered, and they are usually full of surface issues. I've opened a lot of these packs. I've got a lot of these in hand. Tough one to grade. Next up, before we head into the charts and graphs territory, Hobbypalooza is coming up June 23rd, I believe. We are on Sunday at, I believe, noon. Me, Dustin, Steve doing the Off-Centered show as part of Hobbypalooza. It's basically a 48-hour hobby content blowout. Tons of different channels participating. All sorts of craziness going on. And I'll put a reminder here as well. If you haven't been watching Flipping Steve's channel, you better go catch it. He is gearing up for the final phase of his national giveaway. That'll be going on Off-Centered in 2 weeks or a week and a half. Now, there's still time to get into that. Myself and a ton of other content creators have helped donate to that. Steve has done a fantastic job raising a ton of money for that. Basically a no strings attached, watch his content, answer some trivia questions, and you could potentially win a trip to the National. It includes your hotel. It includes a bunch of spending money, an event. Ludex has worked out or reached out, and they're getting a ticket for the winner. Zion, I believe, Zion cases are kicking some stuff in, and a few other companies are kicking things in as well. So go over, check out Flipping Steve's channel, and make sure you're caught up on his content because you can potentially win a trip to the National. Fantastic thing he's done every year. This is his 3rd year in a row doing it. Last but not least, forgot one before we get into the charts and graphs. Bowman Sapphire. I did the video yesterday about kind of the disaster of what that product launch was like. I recorded that a couple days earlier. Since then, prices have moved up. Sealed boxes are now doing $650, flirting with $700 in some cases. Very limited print run on this. Like I said, around 10,000 boxes, give or take, on 2024 Bowman Sapphire. But I'll just reiterate what I said yesterday. You got to figure out a better way to sell this stuff tops for these super high demand products. Just putting it out there to the masses, you either need better anti-botting technology or some sort of queue system. There are people that have figured this thing out. The technology is out there. Do better. I doubt that you will, but try to do better. And please, for the love of God, do not do a reverse Dutch auction. I hate the Dutch auctions. Terrible way to try to sell this product for a consumer anyway. All right, let's hop into market movers, look at some charts and graphs, trying to move quickly through this one because like I said, we got a lot of stuff I want to talk about. Link in the description down below if you want your own version of charts and graphs and you want to run these things yourself, deep dive in, you can get a free trial and 20% off for life, whatever package you decide to sign up with. First up, basketball. As I mentioned at the top, we are 1 game into the NBA Finals. Game 2 is later tonight. The Celtics pretty much slapped the Mavericks around. We'll see what the Mavs got tonight, if they can make a little bounce back in this series. I expect them to come out guns blazing. They better. The Celtics team is really good. They have kind of flown under the radar because they've had the easiest path ever. But when they really kick it up, they could look like an absolute monster. Tatum didn't even have that great a game. He only had 15 points. And didn't really shoot that well, and they still stomped the hell out of them. So we'll see if Luka can bounce back. You can see here, I pulled up a lot of the major players. We got Luka, we got Tatum, we got Jaylen Brown, and I threw Kristaps Porzingis in there, the unicorn, because he came back in game 1 and looked absolutely fantastic. Luka, over the last 30, pretty much all these guys are up. Even Luka is still up, but he is already starting to backtrace a little bit, down to around 1,600 for his silver PSA 10. Tatum, no movement at all. Still sitting at around $900. Jaylen Brown continues to be the big winner of the Celtics guys, up about 40%. And then Porzingis, that's his base prism. His silver prism PSA pop is like nothing. There's like 20, I think, 25 in a PSA 10. Even his base prism is just over 1,000. Very cheap card, only $65, but that is even up 150%. And most of that is really just kind of based off of his performance in game 1, since he hasn't really played the entire playoffs. Just kind of talking about basketball in general really quickly. This is probably the time, as we had like all the focus is on the finals. And then after that, it's going to be on the NBA draft. And once again, this is basically gambling. You know, if you want to play the whole buy into a guy and hope he bounces back and prices go up or whatever, once the season starts, this is probably the time to start looking. Usually between now and the National is some of the best time to buy basketball, including at the National itself, as everyone is so football driven at the National. You know, I have guys thrown up here. I'm not endorsing any one of these in particular, but these are the type of players that, and even really lower end guys than this, that pick whoever it is that you like. This is the time to be picking them up. And there's going to be a theme here. I want guys on teams that potentially could make moves in this offseason, or they themselves could get traded. Just something could happen to kind of level up their situation. I have Paolo Banchero on here. Magic have a ton of cap space. They made their little run last year. I assume they're going to want to try to level that team up to be more of a player in the Eastern Conference, and he is a very, very good young star on that team. Jalen Brunson, rinse and repeat. The Knicks, they could potentially bring someone big in. They had a really great year. They made a hell of a run in the playoffs, even with half their team hurt, and Brunson was amazing. Huge collector base of Knicks fans that are going to want his stuff potentially. Tyrese Maxey, his card was $500 in the middle of the season when him and Embiid were rolling. Another team, tons of cap space. They're going to be looking to make moves. They're going to be looking to level that team up. Jalen Green, young and up-and-coming team. He hasn't been that good for most of his career. And then the second half of last year, he started playing really good. That's another team. They're going to want to do stuff. They're going to want to try to level that team up to potentially compete more in the Western Conference. And he could be an integral part of that, or he could be a key piece of a trade if they move him out the door. Either way, that would be a win. Cade Cunningham. Pistons are an absolute disaster. Sorry, anyone from Detroit. I still do believe in Cade, and his stuff is pretty cheap. PSA 10 silver for $190. My guy, Darius Garland, had a meh season. Kind of, plagued with injuries, just did not seem to be vibing with Donovan Mitchell and the rest of the squad. His silver prism's $50. If he gets traded to the Spurs and they pair him up with Wemby, he could have a huge bounce back season. And you were buying his stuff pennies on the dollar. I could easily see a world where Garland stuff is up quite a bit if we get in season, assuming a trade on Garland. And if he doesn't get traded, it probably means Mitchell's gone and then he's back to a one-man show. And he's shown that when he is kind of by himself in the backcourt, he can put up pretty big numbers. He made an all-star team. So once again, you could pick these guys or some other player out there that you like. These are just kind of samples of players I am thinking about. These are the type of things that I want to look at. What is the team context? It's not just necessarily about the player. It's also about the team. You can say that on the flip side as well. Look at Giannis stuff. Does Giannis have a good path to the finals anytime soon? That team's getting older. They can't make a lot of changes. Lakers stuff, same thing. Even the Nuggets. The Nuggets are going to have a hard time adding to that roster. And they may start to lose pieces because of salary cap situations. Same thing with the Timberwolves. If they want to run that team back, they start to get some real big financial handcuffs put on them. These are things that you want to consider when you're looking at NBA stuff. So just some food for thought. Let's dig into some baseball really quick before we wrap things up. Acuna, we finally had a sale on a first Bowman. This was a BGS 9.5, down about 15% since his injury. Overall, based off of what I've seen, not a lot of his stuff is moving. A lot of it is not coming to market like I thought it would. Even his baseline refractors have not dropped a ton because just people are not willing to sell into the injury. So you might actually have to wait a little bit for this thing to kind of play itself out. I don't know. We'll see. But just wanted to give a quick update there because we've been talking to Acuna the last couple weeks. Judge on absolute fire. We've been talking about him the last few weeks. He just continues to crush home runs. He is probably the favorite for AL MVP at the moment, or at least on the very, very short list. Soto was right up there with him. He got a little bit of an injury scare. More on that in a minute. But the main takeaway here is that Judge's stuff is not up that much at all. This is going back to March 1st. I pulled his first Bowman auto in a BGS 9.5 and the refractor in a BGS 9.5. They're basically flat to not up at all. The refractor's up slightly. The regular Bowman Chrome is down slightly. Now, they dipped to start the season and popped back up again. You can see that on the charts and graphs. His real ones auto, I pulled that one up because it had some recent sales on a PSA 10. That's sitting at 2K. One hadn't sold in early March, so we only have the April sale to go off of at 1.6. It dipped even lower and then spiked up as he got hot. And even that's kind of tailed off a little bit. Same with the base Bowman Chrome. But Judge is having an absolutely monster season, and his running mate Juan Soto also having a fantastic season. Hopefully he ends up being completely fine. He had a little bit of a scare, and I have him on one of my main fantasy baseball teams with a forearm injury where he got pulled. It seems like he's going to be okay, knock on wood. I'd really like to see him back in the lineup, but he's having a fantastic year. His Bowman Chromes for the most part are all up. PSA 9 up 60%. PSA 10 up 24%. The BGS 9.5 for whatever is showing down 15% on this one. I don't know if it's just this funky little dip in one sale because it's showing that it sold below a PSA 9. Could be some fun with numbers there. Maybe it had bad subgrades. Who knows? Weird thing about BGS. And a PSA 10 also has not sold for a couple of weeks. But generally speaking, Soto stuff up, and up. I've been picking up some niche case Soto stuff, not the mainline things. You'll see one in the mail day video that I talked about earlier that I picked up of his, a non-rookie, just a really cool card of Soto. Great player. He's only 25 years old. He has a hell of a resume already and has a hell of a career in front of him, assuming he could stay healthy. We'll see what the Yankees end up doing with him in the offseason if they give him the mega contract. The numbers on whatever Juan Soto gets for a contract are going to be larger than the GDP of a lot of countries. The amount of money he is going to get is going to be insane. Skenesy. Paul Skenes continues to sweep the nation. He's been an absolute phenom so far this year. This is his first Bowman PSA 10, PSA 9, both up huge. PSA 10 up 93%, PSA 9 up 44%. This is over the last 60 days. As you know, he got a bunch of run up to the call up, and then he has been spectacular since the call up. Obviously, with pitchers, Skenes is great. I've been paying attention to every one of his starts. It's just scary putting money into a pitcher. Like, we kind of all know how this story is going to end. Very few of these guys make it out clean on the other end of the careers. Like, maybe one or two pitchers per generation that really throw up the huge numbers and stay relatively healthy. You know, like the last one probably would have been Verlander, I guess, and even he had some very late Tommy Johns. But generally speaking, pitcher cards just do not hold a ton of value in the long run. Hopefully he could buck this trend. He is a fantastic player to watch. And like I said, just a ton of fun to watch pitch. So hopefully he can hold this thing together and stay healthy. I can only imagine if he finishes the season strong, there's that Fanatics event in Pittsburgh at the very, very end of the season in late September. His stuff will be going absolutely crazy down there. He's been pretty popular locally as well. We're about 2 hours from Pittsburgh here. And I always hear people asking for his stuff at shows when I'm walking around. Last but not least, we have not checked in on football in quite a while. So I picked, 5 or 6 of the popular quarterbacks, Silver Prisms over the last 90 days, just as a little bit of like a check-in. Mahomes up ever so slightly, basically flat. PSA 10 sitting right at that 4K mark. That's essentially what it's been doing. Burrow down slightly, down about 10%. Everybody else up ever so slightly, just small step-ups. Herbert up about 10%. Stroud up just under 10%. He's back over $900 again. That it kind of got down to $800. It has now started to get its way back up again. Hurts up about 10%. Tua up about 24%. So the quarterback market seems to be gaining a little bit of steam as we creep closer and closer and closer to the National, where it'll be quarterback palooza, as everyone will lose their minds chasing the next young, bad quarterback, the Desmond Ritters and Sam Howells of the world, if you will. We will see what crop of names comes up, starts surfacing as we get closer and closer to the National of these quarterbacks that people will spend tons of money on that you probably shouldn't be spending a ton of money on because it rarely works out well once expectations meet reality. That is all I got for you, boys and girls. We will catch you on the next one. Peace.